world has changed. America has changed. If something were to happen tomorrow, how self-sufficient would you be? Could you grow your own food? Could you sustain your own livestock? Could you survive? This is the We Grow Our Show with Nick and Don. Nick and Don talk about everything from politics to planting. They cover techniques, methods, and tips on how to not only survive, but thrive. Visit the website at WeGrowOurs.com. Lock and load. This is the We Grow Our Show. Get your grow on.
Welcome back to the We Grow Our Show, where the facts are mostly true.
You keep saying that. They're always true, damn it.
Well, I'm not exactly doing due diligence and looking stuff up and making sure. Most of mine's shot from the hip, and then I'll apologize later if it's wrong.
No, this is called real world experience.
Real world experience. Okay.
Exactly. That's what we do here. We go out and we test all these theories.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've got a rabbit poop gasifier in my yard.
That's true. I need to come get that, by the way.
Yeah.
I've been to your house twice since I left it there.
Yeah. It's kind of fun to play with.
Have you been playing with it a lot?
I did. I shot it with a laser to see, to see if we could get it ignited without, it's a battery powered laser. It's the highest laser you can get. It's a blue laser, highest power.
Laser.
Yeah.
That
it burns
cool.
the crap out of you if you hit it, if you put it on your leg.
Why would you do that?
Because it's fun.
Hey, I have an idea.
It's a great way to
Let's
chase
shoot
kids
myself
around
with a laser.
Well, shoot myself? No, you got the kids running around. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, for
no,
CPS, that's Don Cupper at WeGrowOurs.com.
No, I would never do that to my kids. But we,
I'm calling Austin. I'm going to find out.
He's the one that was out there playing with it. He was lighting fireworks off with it.
That's cool though. So is it the same technology, the same diode they use in Blu-rays?
I have no idea.
Because blue lasers, if I know this, or if I remember right, was the hardest to channel and hardest to control, and that's why it's so new. Because you could get a very fine stream on it, and that's why they call it Blu-ray, because you can actually write in a smaller space than the previous lasers.
Well, if this was a Blu-ray, I would think it would melt the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
If that was what was hitting it. Because this thing is hot. I mean,
well,
we're lighting fireworks off.
They etch.
It was kind of cool. So we could go 50 feet away and light the fuse with that laser.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's battery powered. So I'm like, hey, let's put it in the gasifier. See if we can use it as an ignition source. Wow. Grid down, you got to light it. And you don't have a blowtorch or whatever there that thing can be tough to get lit.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
Well, that design anyways.
Yeah. Well, what if we take that and just shoot the laser in it?
Huh.
And it works. And that would be cool to light off other little thingies, around your property or whatever you need to do.
Are you referring to booby traps?
No, I would never do that. No.
Again, that's Don Cupper at.
No, so it was kind of cool. So yes, I've used it.
All right. Well, that's cool. I'm glad it's getting used. I have to say that was probably thrown together the most. Let's put some pictures up of it. I've got some pictures on my phone.
I posted, I think, a link to your video of it.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It smelled. Should I tell the story about going to the convenience store? No, I got to now. So, I built a gasifier with the intention of using it to convert rabbit poop into syngas or producer gas, which is what a wood gas burner or wood gas gasification device will do. It's the same concept. Any biomass that goes into it, if it's at the right humidity and all of that, it will produce a propane-like gas. Anyway, if you don't have anything burning the gas you're producing and you're standing next to it, you're going to smell like the gas is released. When you're doing it with pine chips and wood chips of any type, you smell like a campfire. Well, when you're doing it with rabbit poop, you smell like a giant turd.
Yeah.
A giant smoking turd.
Well, and what it reminded me of, and not that I've had any experience with this, but have you ever heard something called stinkweed?
Stinkweed?
Yeah. People smoke this stuff, it's kind of nasty.
You're going to like this story.
Yeah.
You're going to like this story. So, Get the bleep ready. The bleep button ready.
Get the bleep button ready.
Because this is a funny one. So I'm messing around with this thing for like 3 hours straight. My eyes are burning because I've been in the smoke. And I've been like right there inhaling this stuff, trying to get this to work because it was kind of a shoot from the hip kind of a deal. And, it was working great. I was thirsty and hungry. I went to the convenience store smelling like I just walked out of a burning poop building. And I walk into the room or into the convenience store and the clerk gives me this dirty look. I mean, she's probably, 50 to 60 in that range, and she's just eyeballing me. She's giving me the stink eye. And I'm like, what the heck's her problem? Anyway, go back, grab my Gatorade, I think a Snickers bar or something, walk back up to the counter, and she leans forward and whispers, and she goes, "Are you high?" I'm looking at her kind of confused. I'm like, "No, are you?" She's like, "You smell like weed." I'm like, "What? I don't know where you've been buying your weed, lady, but it's some weed."
That's right. That's what the smell reminded me of. What was that? I was like,
but then I didn't realize how bad I smelled. And I went home. I took a shower. I was washing the clothes. I had already showered. And my wife was like, "You stink." And it was coming out of my pores. It was bad.
Well, and your eyes were probably all bloodshot.
Oh, yeah. Cause it was just right there in the smoke.
Yeah. Nice.
And so I probably looked like a total stoner dude.
Good little Mormon kid walks in and doesn't have a clue what she's talking about.
I didn't know the fact that I was buying munchies at the same time, probably.
Cheetos.
No, man, that's just because I'm a fat guy. Oh gosh.
So this week we are going to talk amongst ourselves. No guests. We're just going to have a conversation about how to get started.
So go ahead and tune out now and come back next week. No, just kidding.
No. So yeah, episode 20, and we've had a lot of people ask us more about livestock integration. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about small livestock integration. We're not using cows with this.
No.
And we want to tell you guys how to get started, and how to get started not only in growing your food, but how to get started integrating your systems.
That's right.
So that's kind of what the topic is this week is integrating your systems. And if you're a homesteader or farmsteader, as I like to call them, at this point, and you have goats and chickens and hopefully aquaponics and rabbits and quail or any of those combinations of things, what is it that you can do to reduce the input into your system and reduce the waste coming out of your system, or where can you use it? So, Nick, what do you think is one of the best places to start? And this could be, let's go from the really small up to the typical homestead or farmstead of an acre or two.
Okay. So, I got started in my backyard with 5 rabbits.
HOA.
Hitler's little brother controlling the Third Reich, checking out my street. So, they're strict. Anyway, they would have killed me if they would have found my stash of rabbits and everything in the backyard.
They qualify the stash.
Yeah.
That's Nick at hostlehair.com.
So I am partial to rabbits. That's where I got started, and I would recommend starting with rabbits. Now, keep in mind that's coming from the guy selling the rabbit cages, but it is my belief that you should start with a staple animal and from there branch out. So the rabbits are a great, efficient source to start with. They will consume, for every pound of rabbit meat, you're going to consume about 1.5 pounds of feed. So yeah, I would say start with rabbits.
So one of the things that I've seen a lot of our listeners are already started too.
Okay.
So let's talk about, and I think one of the most popular ways that people start is with chickens.
Yes.
So let's take those two things. I've got a couple of chickens. I'm going to take a couple of rabbits. What do I do now? How do I integrate even those two little systems?
Okay. Well, you're going to get waste from both of them.
Okay.
And the rabbits, have the best fertilizer to go right into a garden, but
So right into the garden. Cold.
it can go.
What do they call that?
It's a warm fertilizer.
A
'cause
warm
it's
fertilizer.
90% nitrate.
So it doesn't need to be composted.
That's right.
Now your chickens poop.
Chicken poop is high nitrite and high ammonia because they poop and pee out the same hole.
Right.
So you're gonna get a pH spike. And you don't want that to go straight into the garden. You need that to break down and become a nitrate.
So you can take that rabbit or that rabbit poop, put it in a raised bed garden.
Yep.
Really, you don't even need soil at this point. You could throw some dirt in there from anywhere.
Well,
Throw the rabbit poop in.
if you have an established soil.
Yeah, well, let's say you don't. Like right now, I don't.
Well, don't cut me off here, Don. I'm getting at something here.
All right.
So if you have an established soil bed and you want to add nitrogen slowly to it, you just leave it in the ball and throw it on there, and it'll maintain its shape for up to 3 years or more, and just slowly dribble the nitrogen out of it into the soil as you use it.
Okay.
Now, if you need to make soil, and Donna Bruce gives a great class in how to make soil.
Right.
But if you need to make soil, then you will grind the manure or mechanically break it down and mix it into the dirt that you have available. The softer the better, obviously.
So now we can take our chicken poop.
Mm-hmm.
We can take our rabbit poop. We can compost the chicken poop with organic stuff coming out of your kitchen.
Uh-huh.
And we can create soil with dirt, rabbit poop, chicken poop.
Yep.
So that's an integration, isn't it? I mean, that's right there. You're starting to integrate those systems into a third. Now, one of the places that I would like to go with that is feed. Because now we've got an input. Okay, what do you do with the waste? Here's something you can do productive with the waste and continuously increase your garden, your raised beds, whatever kind of gardening you're doing. You've also got that input. And I think one of the best ways that we've talked about this many times is fodder.
That's right.
So with the rabbits and the chickens.
Yep.
And barley?
Yeah, you can use barley. Some people are using wheat.
How about half and half? Have you tried that?
I haven't done it yet. Honestly, I've only done the barley so far, just because I've just had barley available, so I just went with that. Some people use black oil sunflower seeds.
I've seen that, yeah.
And they'll mix that in with it, and I believe those are fairly inexpensive. So I'm not 100% sure on the cost of that, but
so on the feed side, we can actually pretty much supplement almost 100%, if not 100% of rabbit's diet with barley.
Yes. In fact, the nutritional makeup of barley is very similar to the pellets. The only difference is the density of dry matter. Mm-hmm. We don't dehydrate the fodder. They eat it fresh and wet.
Right.
And so there's a lot more water weight in it.
So you've got to compensate on the weight-wise when you're feeding rather than 6 ounces, you're going to go to 8.
Well, it's 4 ounces dry.
Okay.
So you're going to give them about half a pound, so 8 ounces.
8 ounces.
Will accommodate that. And you'll play with those numbers. I mean, if you've got lactating does, they get as much as they can eat.
Right.
If you've got kits that are on death row, I call it, you give them as much as they can eat. And, what's nice is you've got the rabbits. When you start planting a garden, you're going to have to weed it.
Right.
And the rabbits will eat anything that's green out of your garden. You pick it and you give it to them. If you throw weeds straight into your composter, you have successfully planted more weeds.
Right.
So,
right. You don't want to compost the seeds.
Exactly. If you compost seeds, well, that's hard to say. Weed seeds, then you're going to get picked up by the FBI and the drug enforcement task. Oh, it's different weeds. Never mind. If you give it to the rabbit, they're going to digest those seeds mostly, and you're not going to plant a harvest of the invasive weeds in your garden.
So on my rabbit system, I strain out the poop, and we're just prepping an area for a garden. We haven't planted the garden back there yet. I've got an aquaponics system that's on the separate side of my house, but we do that. Now, what about the water? Because I'm straining it out, and then I can direct that water, which is full of rabbit urine and some liquid poop, basically.
Urea and different nitrogens left out of the poop.
So what can I do with that? Have you used, I know you've talked about a few different things to do.
Yes.
What do I do? Send it into a drying pond? Do I, put it directly in my garden to water my garden with?
Well, if it's diluted enough, yeah, you can use it to water your garden. But if you're recycling the water to, like, the aeroponic system is designed to use the same water over and over. Well, once it becomes saturated with urea, you've got a pretty potent, high pH liquid. And, I don't recommend doing it until you can smell ammonia, but that's what happens. Eventually, you've got very concentrated urea. Well, urea, if you what do you call it? If
ferment?
No. Distill. Yeah. If you remove some of the water out of it and get it back into how it would have come out of the rabbit, bottled it up, you can sell that to, trappers that want to trap predators.
Okay. So when I'm using the automatic watering or cleaning system on the cage, one of the things I found is the water goes through the poop to be strained out. And it gets full of poop too. It smells like poop.
Yeah.
Can I still do that?
I don't see why not. I mean, an animal, as long as it smells like rabbit, it's going to draw the predators in.
Yeah.
They're going to want a little bit clean. They're not going to want poop particles in it.
Right. Right.
It's got to look like
strain it.
Yeah.
Which I really have no desire to do, but it's possible.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Keep in mind, I'm not out there doing this right now. I'm just saying there's a market available for it.
Right.
The other thing is if you put it in a settling tank and if you have a large tank that, like an IBC tote, 275 gallon tote, you can build like a cube lattice is the best way to describe this, which is basically a cube made out of PVC that you wrap string around a bunch so that you have like nice 4-inch holes in the string. And then you set that in the tank where the urea is breaking down and you expose that to the sun. And now you want the water moving through there slowly. But at that point, the algae will grow on those strings and basically give you a nice big thick algae crop on the strings.
Right.
And you can take that whole cube out of the IBC tote and slide it into a tote where you have tilapia. Now, in theory,
you're going to feed them.
What's that?
You're feeding your tilapia.
Exactly. The algae tilapia eat algae.
Right.
So you can feed the tilapia off of the product of the urea. Now, when urine exits the body of a rabbit, it is sterile.
Right.
So if you can keep it in a sterile, not a sterile clean room or anything like that, but if you can get it to where the poop is strained and removed from the system, it would probably be a little bit better. Which we're working on that. But you can use that urine without any problems as far as growing bacteria and things like that, because the bacteria won't break down or won't grow in a high alkaline, state. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, there's other uses that's the way to keep the urine in food production. Now, if anybody's distilling their own alcohol, I want to tell you guys a little secret. Fermenting, if you go and buy the super yeast that's really good for fermenting your alcohol, it'll cost you a lot more. And I've actually had a couple of conversations with people that have the super yeast. And I said, so what's the difference between yeast and super yeast? He said, well, there's additives in there to feed the yeast. It's like, okay, what are the additives in it to feed the yeast? He said, well, food grade urea. It's like, are you kidding me? You're paying for urine to go in alongside of the yeast, and it's a powdered urine. And she said, well, there's also protein powder in there too. It's like, so you're adding protein in urea alongside of sugars, and then you ferment all of those, and immediately made my, immediately I started thinking,
right.
And I'm like, oh man, rabbit urine like crazy. You grow a crop alongside of that of something else and you mix the two together, you're going to have cheap super yeast because the yeast will have a well-balanced diet of urine, protein, and your sugars.
Yeah.
And the proteins, well, that can come from the guts of the rabbit. So when that comes down.
Very good. So you've got a complete integrated system just off of that.
Yeah, well, exactly. And you can use that to make fuel. I'm not an alcohol drinker. I don't think I'd drink rabbit piss and
yeah. Well, you can put it in your car.
Exactly. You can burn it, no problem.
Yeah, and with a still, you can go to E85 and dump it right into your tank with hardly any conversion.
Exactly.
So, and that's another integration method I guess we could talk about as we've talked about at the beginning of the show here, the gasifier. Mm-hmm. You can run a generator off of it by burning the rabbit poop.
Exactly.
You want it very dry.
It's got to be under 16%, right. Which is in Arizona. What's our humidity today?
Like yeah, well, nothing.
12,
yeah,
if that.
Lucky. Yeah. So we can do that. Now, what other animals are we seeing at the farmsteads? Quail.
Yep.
Aquaponics, gardening, goats. So we've got, a lot of people doing all these things, starting with rabbits, starting with chickens. I think another place to start is with the quail. So you've come up with a quail cage. I love the quail cage that you built for me. And basically we put in one female or four females and one male per section. I've got 3 little sections in my cage. And each quail is producing on average an egg a day. I break it down to, a little less than that.
It's about 300 eggs a year per
right.
female.
So I go 5 a week per female. That's kind of what I count my averages on.
They take the weekends off.
Yeah, I figure. Yeah, yeah. So out of that, we're getting pickled eggs because I love pickled eggs. So we're hard boiling them, and we can do 30 to 40, and we can incubate those. Now, I think as far as starting, 1 quail cage for breeders, 1 quail cage for grow outs, and at least 1 incubator. Now, we've gone a little bit different. We've gone to 2 incubators. Basically, we incubate for 2 weeks, 14 days in one with an automatic egg turner. Those run about $150 thereabouts with the automatic egg turner. We do 1 still air, which 3 days prior to hatch, they go into very high humidity, and they sit there and they hatch there and they dry there for about 10 hours. Then we open it up and we take them out. They then go into a grow out cage. So by continuously rotating, we have 3 grow out cages for the smaller ones. And when they hit about 4 weeks, they're pretty good size. They go into our main grow out, which means they're going to be slaughtered.
Death row.
Death row, yeah. And they're our meat birds. So we can do about 40 of those a week. And out of that, we're getting the hard-boiled quail eggs. We use them for, other dishes in the kitchen. We're also taking those quail eggs, and you can do this with chicken eggs, and grinding them up. We bake them for a little while to kill any type of bad contaminants. So this is empty trash. Mm-hmm. And you can throw those right in your composter.
You're talking about eggshells, correct?
Eggshells,
okay.
Yeah. Throw it in your composter if you want. But you can also take that and grind it down. We have a big blender. We actually grind that down, and we'll use that in our aquaponics system to increase calcium. So we can integrate right into that. And you can, now I don't suggest doing this, but you can feed it back to your chickens. You can also supplement the goats if you need to with calcium, and use that in your own diet if you wanted to as well. By baking it, you're killing everything off of that. So there's really a zero waste in that. And the quail poop is just like chicken poop, and it can be used out in the composter. The nice thing about quail, and we've had an episode on quail with Scott, I think the cool thing is you can do that in a HOA too. So if you're stuck in an HOA environment or a small patio home or something, I think rabbit and
limited
quail,
on space and angry neighbors.
Yeah, I think rabbit and quail are probably a key along with the aquaponics.
Yep.
I'm an aquaponics guy, so aquaponics is anywhere you go. You can do it in your kitchen. It's actually really good to have in your house, especially in Arizona. We use koi in the one in our house, and it increases the humidity in our home, which therefore is also decreasing static, and makes it a healthier environment. We've got living plants in the house. the same reason you have house plants. So you're cleaning the air and doing all that fun stuff right in our kitchen in this case. And throughout the house, we're putting little tanks. We sell the little kind of countertops. So we put them in the rooms with a goldfish or one of the betta fish in there. So you can take these systems and you can integrate them completely all throughout. The quail or the rabbit poop can also be used to, and the compost, your organic matter coming out to raise worms.
My favorite, black soldier fly.
Black soldier flies. And we did a whole show on black soldier flies.
That's
so
right.
If you're new to listening to this, the quail show and the black soldier flies are certainly worth going back and listening to.
Yes.
The biopod is awesome. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to start with it either.
No, you can
5-gallon bucket is enough to start with.
You can build a 5-gallon bucket little biopod and grow your black soldier fly larva there. And that's where you can integrate rabbits and quail. The link is the black soldier flies. So the manure from the rabbits goes into feeding these black soldier fly larvae.
And that's the same thing with the aquaponics.
Exactly.
It's a key integration and chickens, not just quail. Your tilapia fish, and everything.
Yeah, you'll have to forgive me because I'm not anti-chicken, but I'm not pro-chicken either. Like I've had bad experiences. In an HOA, chickens just don't work unless you've got very understanding neighbors and they'll keep their mouths shut.
Yeah, I love our chickens, but I'm not in an HOA.
Yeah.
So. And that's why, because I wanted chickens.
And you suck. No, just kidding. No, we actually got to meet all of our neighbors because my wife was like, hey, we should get some chickens. I'm like, all right, sure. She bought 10 of those big white, I don't know.
Like the leghorns?
Yeah, the leghorns. Yeah. And the guy that we bought them from said, yeah, they won't fly off. It'll be fine. So this redneck dude in Apache Junction. And, so we took them home and it was nighttime and we turned them loose in the backyard. They all kind of huddled under the tree like, oh, this is going to be great. They like it here. Oh, it's great. And this is before we did rabbits or anything else in the backyard. Next morning, they're all up at the crack of dawn. And my wife's like, oh my gosh, they're so loud. They're so loud. And then I get a call while I'm at work. She's in tears. These freaking chickens are flying over the fences and she's chasing them up the tree.
Yeah, you need to keep them in a coop for at least a month there, Nick.
Well, yeah, again, it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She decided she wanted chickens and 6 o'clock we were driving to buy some. So anyway.
Who knows who wears the pants in that family?
Oh, yeah. Well, a little bit. It
little bit.
It was more of, okay, honey, let's see how this goes. Okay, now you're going to listen to me. Why don't we go with rabbits?
So, I mean, yeah, I know. All right, being anti-chicken. No.
Yeah, well,
I know. But the black soldier flies are the key.
Yep.
A big key because the rabbit waste. Now, when you start your black soldier flies, it's probably not a good idea to take a bunch of rabbit poop and stick it in the container and expect black soldier flies to show up.
No,
you want to get that started.
Yeah,
you want to get
going.
A nice, healthy colony, and then you're going to slowly add that. And then you can take that and feed your fish with it, feed your quail with it, feed your chickens with it. One of the things that we've done is actually put a bug zapper above our fish tank, by the way.
Yes, so redneck fish feeder.
Yeah, you can take that and collect some of those insects and put those back into your quail. To help increase the protein levels. Because quail require very high protein.
Yeah, close to 30%.
30%.
27 is where Scott was saying.
Yeah, and it can be tough to do that if you're buying chicken food, which is around 18. You really need to get turkey starter. In Phoenix, we found a organic, non-GMO supply of that's right at the 27%. And then we mix in some mealworms, and insects with that. And it works really well. So we're getting that up there in the 35% range. So you can, again, you guys just kind of look for the integration in whatever systems you have currently. And you don't need to start big. Black soldier flies start in a little container with, what's a small size for a rabbit cage, Nick? You think 3?
Or you mean compartments?
Yeah, how many compartments?
Yeah, I would say minimum you want to have a breeding trio. And that's bare bones minimum. I actually recommend starting with 5 rabbits. That may sound overwhelming, but it really isn't. It's a very small, low footprint, 2 foot by 6 foot against a wall somewhere. You're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got, what do we have now? I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 2 bucks and 6 females, and then 2 cages for grow out, I think is what we've got. So, I mean, it's certainly doable, and that's in a very small area, like you said, 2 foot by 6 foot. The quail are a very small area. So you don't need to start big.
Yeah. It's very true. And that's one of the reasons I don't really go after chickens is they like to roam around a little bit.
Yeah.
And my backyard is not chicken congruent. Whereas the quail, they are very happy, very lazy in a smaller area.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
they don't.
Plus they're 40% more efficient than chickens. I believe that's what Scott was saying.
Yeah. As far as meat goes. And I actually like them.
Meat and eggs too.
They're so easy to process too. I don't like processing chickens. I'll do it.
Plucking,
even if you have a whiz
it's a
bang,
plucking mess.
you can throw them in there and it plucks them. I just don't like it. Frankly, they stink. When you clean them, when you compare that to a rabbit, it's
a very foul
so easy
smell.
to do. Yeah. And rabbits take me about 2 minutes to process. A chicken takes me 20 minutes to process.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of that. The quail are the same thing though. I'm about 2 minutes, if that, on a quail. When we get a little assembly line going and you're doing 30.
Oh yeah.
It's boom, done. I can get them done in 35, 40 minutes. We're done. And we've got meals for a week.
Yeah.
Not every day, but 3 meals for a week done out of that. So, and that's for a family of 5. So again, whatever you have, we have goats too. We've found that integrating us with goats, we use the goat milk to help supplement, again, the chickens and the quail, give them a little bit of goat milk. I haven't given it any to the rabbits yet. I don't know if they'd need it or not, or if it would be any benefit.
It's something to look into, but I don't know if they would drink it or not. I imagine they would. I mean, they start off, they're a mammal. They'll know the smell of milk. I know cats sure like it.
Oh, we feed the dogs, our pet dogs.
Oh, you have like meat dogs too?
Yeah.
You sick son of a.
Yeah, no. We feed them. They love the eggs. Both quail and the chicken eggs. We'll feed them that. And, the rabbit, if you ever wanted to, you can certainly feed the scraps of the rabbit to the dogs and help supplement their feed.
Remember, if you've got a dog that's got allergies and you take him into the vet, the first thing the vet's going to do is tell you to put him on a potatoes and rabbit diet.
Right.
Because that's what they wouldn't exactly dig up potatoes and eat them in the wild, but rabbits is what they would eat if they were running around in the wild.
Right. So, I mean,
they sure as heck wouldn't go and husk an ear of corn and start gnawing on that.
Exactly. So, I think that's kind of the integration, it's just a matter of common sense. Finding whatever you're doing, start doing something. We had met a gentleman out at the Prepper Fest, and that was kind of where he's been researching and watching and doing. Start actually doing it.
Yep.
Start small. Or start big. Just start.
Yep. Just take a personal inventory. Figure out how much time and money you have.
Right.
To do this. Don't go broke doing it. You don't want to do that. You don't want to spend 10 grand and get nothing out of it. But you also don't want to spend $50 and not get anything out of it either. So if you're going to do it, do it. Come to some of the classes. Keep listening to the show. We give you a lot of free advice.
Yeah.
We're constantly, we're doing what we can to get people involved in this. In fact, on the 21st of June, I've got a rabbit processing class and also Rabbits 101 class if you're in the Prescott area.
Or if you want to get out of the valley.
Exactly. It's hotter than a freaking heck down here. Yeah, you come up to Prescott and enjoy a little bit of the North Country, nice weather.
Absolutely. Hey, speaking of a little cooler weather, and I got an eye twitch. That's annoying.
Awesome.
Speaking of the cooler weather, I want to do a shout out this week. That's going to replace the other thing. So it's our weekly shout out.
Plugging.
That's right. It's a weekly shout out. So the weekly shout out this week is VROB, which is, I think, what is it? Vacation rent.
No
VRBO.com.
VRBO?
Yeah. But also go to the We Grow Ours Facebook page, and I'll put a post to the place that we rented. A friend of mine owns it up in the, Taos kind of area, Eagle's Nest up in New Mexico. We're going to go up for a vacation up there, and I'm going to put a link to his particular cabin on there, which happens to be 6 bedroom, sleeps 14, 5 bathrooms on 100 acres in the middle of nowhere with a lake a few minutes from it and a river running through the back. So I plan to go for a week, and we're going to go fishing, and we're going to go fishing at the lake, and we're probably going to go kayaking and just have a blast for a week and turn off all the electronics and no TV in this place.
So I take
no
we're
internet.
not going to have a We Grow Our show that week.
We're not going to have a We Grow Our show that week. I'm going on vacation. It's been a long time since I did it. So this week's shout out is to the Eagle's Nest Ranch condo, which is CNC Ranch, I believe. And I will put a link on the Facebook page, and I'll put a link directly on the show notes as well to his cabin. So I'm going to go up there and enjoy it. I want you guys to go take a look and check this place out. It is killer. And if you get a chance, if you're anywhere near there or you want to fly in, it's worth it, man. This is going to be amazing. So that's
Speaking of frivolous spending, go ahead and hit that donate button over in the top right-hand corner so that Don can enjoy this vacation.
Yeah, I wish that was the case.
No, I think we've got like 30 cents in the account, which is cool. That's
yeah,
cool.
That's enough to get us going for another episode.
Oh, gosh.
No, seriously, that's actually a good question. If you donate to our show, what do we do with it? And I think the answer is we put on classes. Mm-hmm. We're looking at doing some film screenings for some different movies like Food Patriots. Mm-hmm. We're looking at renting out a theater for it. Still trying to put the stuff into plans. We may buy some equipment, so when we have guests in the studio, it's not quite so echoey, something like a new microphone. We've got a lot of our own money invested into the equipment to do this. We've got a lot of our time, not just in talking, but in editing and writing descriptions and show notes. And Nick is going to start blogging a little bit more.
Oh, am I? Okay.
That's right. So we've got some time into this, and that donation goes to help the hosting and the hosting of the podcast and the hosting of the website. So if you guys are so inclined, we would love it. If you don't have the money, that's cool too. Just keep listening.
Yeah, find us some other guests.
Yeah. Tell us what you want to hear about, because, we need to know. We've got a good guest coming up, hopefully next week. We're going to have another gentleman who has a book out and is pretty big in the prepper industry, and that should be a lot of fun.
I'm excited for
a movie producer coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. So, we've got some good things coming. So keep tuning in and checking that out. So
that's right.
Yeah. So that was our shout out. So what else do you have for integration?
Well, let's recap real quick. So you got to start with a good feed. Fodder's a good way to do it. I wanted to also mention moringa.
Yeah, I've heard a few people say that now.
Yeah, moringa is around 40% protein in the leaves alone. So you want to watch it, though. You don't want to give them too much. You want to be able to dilute it some.
Can we eat that?
Yes, we can.
What's it taste like?
Like a leaf. It's not like delicious, but it's close to skinny, spinach.
So can we put it in like,
salads?
I was thinking like protein shakes and stuff.
Oh yeah, because protein shakes are gross anyways.
My wife makes pretty decent ones sometimes.
Give me a cheeseburger. I'll get my protein that way.
A rabbit burger.
Oh yeah, shredded pulled rabbit, barbecue sauce.
Okay, well we're gonna leave early because I'm gonna go eat now.
I love it. So anyway, you can start with the moringa. You can actually grow bamboo and willow branches for rabbits. Yep. In fact, I've heard some people say that rabbits can survive off of nothing but willow. It's not as fun for them. Nobody wants to eat just one thing. So, you can pick, for all of you that live in a greener area, or even in Arizona, if you've got a lawn, make sure you got plenty of dandelion growing out in there.
Oh, that's good for you too. That's good for people.
Yeah, it's funny. Growing up, my dad was like, "Oh, yeah, it's weeds. It's weeds. It's weeds." I'm like, all right, yeah, they're weeds, and think of them as such. But the reality is, dandelions will be a really good contributing factor to a contributing nutrient to raising rabbits or any animals, really. It's very, very good and nutritious. The dandelions are really good to grow in your yard. That and clover, things of that sort. You can actually buy meadowgrass seed, which is similar to timothy when it grows up. A lot of horse people will seed their pastures with it.
Yeah, goats too.
And
good for the goats.
But you can throw that in your backyard in an HOA and it just looks like normal grass, but you've got a better nutritional content of the grass.
Yeah.
If you're going to water something, it might as well have a use.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. Especially out here in the desert. I don't like watering anything.
Yeah, they've got a billboard up that it's a bunch of green straws right next to each other.
Yeah.
And it says that sucking sound isn't the wind.
Yeah.
And it looks like a lawn.
Throughout this country, we're in severe drought. So
yeah, we're draining the aquifers to water useless lawns. You know, don't plant lawns, plant gardens.
Yeah, grow some freaking food, people.
Exactly. Now, Don, you're the aquaponics guy. What kind of water savings will I get if I do aquaponics?
Well, the industry says you can get up to 95%. Out here in Arizona,
you will use 95% less water than conventional farming.
That's right. And that includes if you're watering your lawn, because we're not watering anything. We're keeping everything in a closed loop system.
Uh-huh.
So we're recycling all that water and getting the nutrients to help grow the plants. In reality,
so the water's more of a carrier than it is
yeah, exactly. We're losing it to evaporation,
catalyst,
and we're losing it to what the plants eat. So by keeping it in that closed loop, you're really out here in the desert saving about 85 to 90% from what I can tell. And the reason I say not 95 is because we have to do some water changes out here. Our water is very, very hard.
Does it screw up your pH levels if you don't do the water changes?
It can screw them up in the long run. You can end up with high calcium, which actually stops the plants from uptaking some other minerals, and it can cause some pH issues in the long run. It actually, you get those high salt, high calcium levels, and your plants aren't going to be able to uptake. So you can end up with a nutrient deficiency even more than you will a pH, which you could control. So you want to do some of that, but if you're going to integrate a wicking bed or even a raised bed garden, and you can drain your water out into that, now you're taking that water.
You've used it twice.
And you've used it, and you've integrated not only aquaponics into a wicking bed, but into a raised bed garden. So, and it's phenomenal water to use because now you're adding even more fertilizer into your garden. And what we do is we drain out of the bottom of the tank where those solids are.
Solids out. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Or we'll use a suction, like a fish tank cleaner, basically, where you'd clean they design them for cleaning the pebbles in the bottom. We'll use that in the sump tank to get those solids out and put it right into the grow beds. So that's a phenomenal idea, and it helps clean that sump out. So go ahead and clean those beds out, get all those solids into your sump tank, let it sit there for a day or two, and then pump that out using a siphon right into your garden. And I mean, the nutrient levels in your garden will skyrocket.
Huh. I like it.
Yeah. So you can even, integrate your water. So. Tilapia, again, black soldier flies for food. You could even take some of your greens that you're growing and throw it in there, see if they like that. You can do insects along with the quail. So you put those, you could integrate your quail right over top of your fish tank, feed them all the same thing.
A lot more beds, correct?
No, not necessarily beds. You have to have more filtering.
Filtering.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it really depends on the size of your tank. If you're talking about a 3,000 gallon, pond, or, fish tank, something like that, putting 5 or 6 quail over is really going to do nothing. If you're talking about an IBC tote and you're putting 5 quail over it, you're going to get a much higher concentration. As you said, the pH levels are different because, and it's not you want to monitor things even closer. Okay. So it could change that.
So let's say I've got 30 quail and I want to use their manure in an aquaponics situation.
Well, see,
how would you go about starting up the experiment, would you say?
You're going to need a big tank.
A big tank.
A big tank.
Okay.
5,000 gallon type big. So okay. I wouldn't go, you said 30 quail?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't go over maybe 10 quail per 1,500 gallons max.
Really?
Yeah. And you're going to want to make sure you have something like a catfish as well as some tilapia in there.
That way the catfish can eat some of the
you're going to have some of the stuff
droppings.
So what happens when you're integrating, it's not just about the waste. In fact, it's not about the waste. Most of the waste will dissolve in the water. Okay. So, when it comes to aquaponics or any kind of fish tank, you have a few options. Dilution. Mm-hmm. So if you can dilute the pollutants in the tank, it's going to be a healthier system. So the larger, the more amount of water you have in your entire system, the more it's going to be diluted. So you're diluting those poisons, basically. The other option is filtration. So you could add huge amounts of filtration to the system to make that happen. But you're
filtration, you're talking grow beds, correct?
Grow beds is definitely one of the filtration. When you're adding those solids from the quail, you definitely want to pre-filter before you go into your grow beds.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You don't just want to go direct in. You'd want to pre-filter that a little bit, in my opinion. The other thing is you're not trying to just use the waste from the quail. You're actually trying to save the feed that you're giving to the quail. That's really what's going to feed your fish.
Okay.
Not just their waste. The fish aren't going to eat all the waste. Again, most of that will dissolve. Okay. It's going to hit the water and it's going to dissolve. Now the fish will eat some. But it's going to dissolve in the water. What you're doing is those quail, if you've had quail, they are very, very messy. They can't pick up a piece of food and eat it. They need to pick up 12 pieces of food, drop 11, and eat one. Yeah. Okay, they're going to scratch. They're going to do all this stuff that quail do.
And they're still 40% more efficient than chickens.
Yeah, so, getting the food into them is the hard part, from the dish into the quail. Everything else that's lost is usually wasted. So if you're looking at the bottom of your quail cage and you're emptying those trays out, most of what you're emptying is food with some waste in it. Okay. So by taking, and since tilapia and quail want 26%, 30% protein in their diet, and you've got mealworms and insects and black soldier flies and all that, you could take that and that's what now you're feeding your fish. So you're actually conserving a ton of food by doing it and feeding two species at once. So
pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's not, most people think, you integrate them with the droppings. The droppings have very little to do with it. And that's where you want to watch your water levels. But it's actually more about food conservation and integration than it is about waste. Does that help?
It does, but the waste is still an issue.
Well, again, you can dilute your waste with a lot of water, or you can filter it. Now the fish will eat some, and a catfish will eat some of the stuff that sinks and things like that. But it's not, and it's a cross kind of species thing. You think about in the wild, does this happen?
Not really.
Well, sure it does. Have you seen a bird poop in a lake?
Oh, okay. I see.
I mean, in nature, it happens all the time.
I mean, quail aren't going to hang out over top of water.
Well, quail might not, but a bird's a bird.
A bird's a bird. Okay.
A bird's a bird. So, yeah, and have you seen a duck poop?
Yes, I have.
They poop a lot. It ain't a little, it's a lot.
Oh yeah, and it's like an oil slick every time they drop bowel.
Yeah. So you're taking a little thing, this little itty bitty bird, and talking about little itty bitty droppings. Well, in nature, you've got big birds out there doing the exact same thing.
In much bigger bodies of water.
And then again, it goes down into the soil in the bottom and it helps, the ecosystem thrive. So you've got a higher dilution factor though. You're diluting that water. So filter or dilute, it's your option, but you've got to do one of those two things.
Okay. That makes sense. It's something that we're playing with. We've got the research and development team on it.
Yeah.
And by research and development team, you're listening to them.
Well, we've got some other people that help us out too. So it's not just us. And we'd love to hear.
It is. It's all us.
Yeah. Well, that's right. Yeah. I'd love to hear from the listeners though, as far as what they're doing.
Yeah, and pictures too. Send us some pictures. If it's pretty, we'll post it.
Oh, heck yeah. Even if it's ugly, we'll post it.
There you go.
I want to see
Dawn's
functional.
easy.
I want to see functional. So whatever you guys are doing, let us know. And if we've helped you, let us know.
Yes.
I'd love to know if you're taking some of the advice and doing it.
We like the warm, fuzzy feeling.
Oh yeah. That's why we do this. So yeah, we're good. Is that all that we had to cover?
I think so as far as integration. I
think
haven't.
it's a lot for one kind of podcast.
Yeah.
We covered a ton of things, believe it or not.
One thing I wanted to touch on was, Don, you gave me crap for having turtles in my aquaponics system before.
Yes, I have.
And I found a use for them, but not in the closed loop system of the food. Turtles are great for taking care of proteins that you don't want, the guts and stuff like that. Because guts out of rabbits and quail and fish, you do not want to throw in your composter because they're going to smell really bad.
Unless you've got black soldier flies, which will take them real easy. Now, wait a minute. If you could take those and put them in a separate tank and put some filtering on that, I wonder if you could grow duckweed in that tank.
Well, again, it's gonna be contaminated with. Yes, they will eat the duckweed.
Yeah, but all right. So one of the things that cleans, I'm going to get into this whole thing. One of the things you can do to filter water is grow algae.
Yes,
algae will actually help clean the water. So I wonder if the duckweed would uptake the salmonella. I'm going to have to look into that.
But then what would you do with the duckweed if you've got the salmonella in it?
Well,
you can't feed it back to your fish.
No, or your ducks or anything
So my point is, looking at the wicking beds we talked about, you could actually grow different types of grasses in that wicking bed too, like a hard stem grass, like sweet sorghum and sugarcane.
Yeah. Well, and bamboo.
Yeah. Well,
sugar beets.
What I'm focusing on though is high sugar foods, because if you've got a contaminant that you don't want to eat,
right,
burn it.
Burn it. Yeah.
So
sugar beets,
sweet sorghum, sugarcane, all of those things can be used to filter the water of these nasty turtles, because they're super poopers, man.
Right.
You think ducks are bad. You should see a high protein aquatic animal poop out.
Nice.
Anyways, the water fogs, it's awful. Anyway, but that manure, can then be that turtle waste can then be used to grow these fuel plants.
And you can feed them the protein waste from processing your other animals.
Exactly. And they'll be happy as a clam or a turtle with a mouthful of guts.
Yeah. Yeah. Good idea.
And they also, one of my favorite things to do is when we get the grasshoppers, tons of grasshoppers, and we had some that were like big 6-inch long grasshoppers.
Ooh, fish would love them too.
Well, they were too big for the fish that I had. They'd come up and try and pick legs off when I'd throw them in there. But I throw them in and the turtles come up and just like the noise that it makes. It just is this huge crunching, awesome noise. And then also, when you farm, no matter what you do, you can be as clean as you want to. If you have an outbuilding and there's any poop or anything hits the ground, you're going to have mice.
Yes.
You're gonna have, and we should probably have an episode on rodent control and things like that. But, at my place, I have live traps for the mice.
And you feed those to the turtles?
That's right.
Well, you know what? I've got a lot of turtle food at my house then.
Do you really?
Oh,
See?
Because we've got a mouse problem.
Do you?
We're just running into this at this time of year, and we keep coming across all the babies like to live under the quail cage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I keep pulling out these little pinkies. I mean, like.
There you go. Hey, those things will cost you like $3 a piece.
Yeah, but I'm afraid to feed them to my, to anything that we have, because I don't want the disease.
Well,
so
yeah.
we'll have to discuss that.
I'm not saying feed it to the things you're going to eat.
Right. No, I hear you. I love the idea.
But if you've got snakes.
Yeah.
Snakes, there's very few, contaminants that will hurt a snake coming from a mammal.
Right.
They're not going to catch rabies.
Right. No, I know. No,
so
I think it's a wonderful idea.
You can feed all of these live.
That's all I need to do is now I need to go get snakes now.
Hey, there you go.
Just add to the farm.
I'm sure that Angie will love that.
That's right.
She's a big fan of spiders, if I remember.
Oh, I'll tell her you said that.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us for episode 20.
Woohoo! 20!
I appreciate if you go on Facebook.com/WeGrowOurs and follow us there. Twitter @WeGrowOurs. And I'm trying to this Pinterest thing. I still can't get it on.
Not quite. We need a Pinterest expert if you're listening.
Yeah. Well, it's not I just gotta like do it.
Oh, okay. We need a motivator
you put a
for
on the thing. It's not hard. It's just, I don't know. I'm starting to see the merits in it. So, we're going to try and get our YouTube going pretty soon. So go to Facebook, watch for that, and Twitter. Those are the big places. And of course on our webpage at www.wegrowers.com, and www.wegrowers.com/askus is where you can leave your feedback, ask your questions, record your voice, send us photos, whatever you want to do.
Photos. Lots of photos.
Woo!
All right, guys. We'll catch you next week.